My mother is a nanny for a wealthy family. She has been beating and kicking me since she was a child, but she obeys the eldest daughter of the Sullivan family. It wasn't until they killed me that I realized. It turns out that I am the real daughter of the Sullivan family who was switched, and Nora Sullivan is my mother's biological daughter. After I was reborn, they thought I was a well-behaved and cowardly punching bag. But in fact, I am the devil that makes them tremble. 1. During the summer vacation of my junior year, I studied for the postgraduate entrance examination at home. My mother threatened me to work for her employer by saying that the tuition was too high. It was a huge villa, and she left all her work to me. I have to clean the yard, do laundry and cook, and I can only read at night. In the middle of the night, she asked me to pick up a young lady who was dancing outside. I refused, and she picked up the spatula and hit me. It's been like this since I was a kid: belts, brooms, rackets. I have experienced all kinds of things and have countless injuries, big and small. I can beat her now, but my body still dodges and trembles reflexively. The eldest lady was very drunk and vomited in the swimming pool. She patted my back and said, "You, clean this place up. I'm having a party tomorrow." I gritted my teeth and agreed. After I finish this summer vacation, I can go back to school to prepare for the exam. The swimming pool was so large that it took a long time just to drain the dirty water. As the pipe was clogged with her vomit, I kept going until dawn, and then I lay down by the swimming pool. The sunrise is beautiful, especially in the empty, wealthy area. The sky is yellow and the faint light of sunrise shines on my face. Warm, itchy, and sleepy. "Hey, get up, who told you to sleep here?" I opened my eyes and it was almost noon. The yard was crowded with well-dressed men and women, with beautiful figures under their exquisite swimsuits. And a ferocious face and mocking eyes. The eldest lady kicked me again and said, "Hurry up and drain the water. The pool is empty. Are you going to leave us standing there?" "Yes." I nodded my head and couldn't help but stroke my forearm. There are no scars on their smooth skin. Unlike me, I only dare to wear long sleeves even in the summer. After filling the tank with water, I was about to leave when a yellow-haired man suddenly came up to me. He pretended to bump into me accidentally, then came over to help me up, squeezing my waist gently with his hands. I jumped away immediately. He was very unhappy. "Nora, isn't it hot for your little maid to wear so many clothes in the summer?" "Yes, take off your clothes quickly." Another man responded maliciously. "Put on your swimsuit and play with us." "I'm sorry, I don't have a swimsuit, so I won't play. I want to run away, but I can't hide." Hiss! My clothes were suddenly torn off by the yellow-haired man. They pushed and kicked me into the swimming pool and I was soaked all over. The scars on his body were clearly visible. "Oh, no wonder she's so ugly. Why are there so many scars?" "Yeah, it's disgusting. I'm not even in the mood to go in the water." The laughter and booze, mixed with scrutiny and lustful looks, were like daggers stabbing me. At this moment, I wanted to take a knife and stab them all. "Look, she has a birthmark on her back." "Where?" "The one that looks like a snowflake, do you see it?" I buried my body in the pool, trying my best to cover up the marks on my body. I closed my eyes in shame, but the abuse still continued. Nora suddenly came with a bath towel. I didn't expect her to be so kind, but I accepted it anyway. Her eyes were fixed on my back. A feeling of humiliation surged in my heart, and I glared back fiercely. She was so frightened that she froze and took 2 steps back, her eyes dazed. I think the look in my eyes just now must have been terrifying. I don't know if she can see it, but I really want to kill them right now. 2. That night, I was drowned in the swimming pool by Nora. I struggled like hell, but she wasn't alone. Her accomplice is my mother. I was floating in the air, looking at my body, which was completely rotten after soaking in the swimming pool for so many days. The 2 of them dragged me out because they couldn't stand the stench. Nora used a knife to cut the snowflake birthmark on my back. It was not until my mother stopped her that the 2 of them worked together to bury me under a peach tree in the corner of the yard. After the burial, Nora collapsed and cried against the tree trunk. There was no trace of sadness on my mother's face. Instead, she comforted me. "Don't worry. No one can take your place now." I followed them back and entered the ladies' room, which I was not usually allowed to enter, and found a photo of the Sullivan daughter when she was a child. She actually has a snowflake-shaped birthmark on her back. Could it be that I am the real Nora? I always thought that my parents just favor boys over girls, so they beat me. I thought Nora was a rich man's daughter. That's why my mother kept licking her and coaxing her. I hate myself for not discovering the truth that was so close to me sooner. I have been planning for so long, just trying to save money to leave, but now I have even lost my life. I hate it so much. 3. I floated under the tree for a long time. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in the house with a mop in my hand. Hey, what are you daydreaming about? I froze and looked at Nora, who was talking to me. What are you looking at? Mop the floor. She crossed her legs, scrolled through her phone, and looked at me with disdain. She was wearing the clothes she wore on my first day at the villa. I was born again. God has eyes. What's wrong with you? You're mopping the floor and you look so grim. Are you about to die? She came over and kicked me. I gripped the mop tightly, trying hard to resist the urge to slap her to death right now. You're the one who wants to die. I glared at her with gritted teeth. The hatred in his eyes seemed to frighten her. She frowned, stepped back, said crazy, and continued to fight on her phone nonchalantly. It all started when she saw a video of a rich family's daughter. In the video, the blogger quarreled with her fiancé and ran away from home in a Ferrari. The blogger's grandfather used his inheritance of hundreds of millions to persuade her to go home and get engaged, but she turned to her childhood friend in the UK. A series of videos showing off superiority attracted a lot of netizens to lick his boots. The blogger posted the location of a manor and showed off his own big villa. But that was the old Sullivan house. It happened to be Nora's turn, and she was in high spirits and started to attack the fake daughter. Run to the door of my old house and send a location. Is this your home? Then I have to ask my dad if he has an illegitimate daughter outside. Delete the video immediately and apologize to me. The entry "real daughter slaps fake daughter in the face" became a hot search. I looked at Nora's smug look and found it ridiculous. Has she forgotten that she is also a fake daughter? Why haven't you deleted it yet? She muttered to herself. My followers have increased. Shame on you. She glanced at me with disdain on her face. Come with me and take a video for me. Nora took me to the Sullivans' old house. The old red carpet, the abstract oil painting in the corridor, and the pond behind the window. It's all so familiar. My head began to ache and forgotten memories from my childhood came flooding back. I stood there in a daze. Nora was immersed in her dream of becoming an internet celebrity and didn't notice anything unusual about me. She walked to the sofa, fixed her makeup, and struck a sexy pose. What are you standing there for? Take a video for me. She twisted her waist and introduced the luxurious decorations in every corner of the house in a shrill and coquettish voice. I suppressed my disgust and followed her to take pictures, trying my best not to let her notice that something was wrong with me. It wasn't until she entered the bedroom that I saw the huge wedding photo on the wall. The woman in the photo has a kind face and a benevolent expression. An inexplicable feeling of familiarity came over me. My head started to split, and memories that I had forgotten due to a fever in my childhood came flooding back to me. I recalled the time when my mother used to hold me in her arms and sing nursery rhymes. She was so gentle and her eyes were full of love. In the 16 years since I left her, I have never experienced such warmth again. What are you standing there for? Take a picture. Nora grabbed a decoration beside the bed and threw it at me. The porcelain shattered and sticky blood oozed from my calves. The pain pulled me away from the warmth of memories, and hatred took over my whole body again. I lowered my head and bit my lip, pretending to be trembling with fear. My cowardice is my disguise, just like how I have been living like a rat in the gutter for many years. I'm sorry, miss, I thought of a way to make you angry quickly, but stop hemming and hawing and just speak. I suppressed the urge to laugh. The demon within is growing wildly. A plan gradually emerged. 4. Nora listened to me and changed her clothes. Although it is said to be homeware, it is actually sexy and brings out her curvy figure. I asked her to learn from some low-level videos and pose in many suggestive postures on the bed, in the bathtub, on the sofa. She also sang along to the hottest hits of the moment, twisting her waist as much as she could. She was actually a little hesitant and wanted to delete it after posting it. Isn't this borderline? It's okay, miss. You didn't show your face. Besides, they can only look at you and can't touch you. I gritted my teeth and invested all my savings in her account. Traffic poured in instantly, and she gradually lost herself in the praises and the skyrocketing number of fans. I went to the kitchen alone, found a bottle of liquor, and poured it on the wound on my calf. Heart-wrenching pain. I bit my lip without making a sound, and just looked down at the gaping wound. That arc, that bright red flesh, looked like a bloody mouth smiling sinisterly. At this moment, my heart was gradually being eroded by the devil of revenge. 5. Back home. I deliberately watched Nora's videos while taking a shower, and turned the volume up to the highest. Halfway through the wash, I called Mark Phillips. "Brother, help me get the gauze." There was a panicked commotion at the door. I knew he was eavesdropping on me taking a shower again. I listened to him running away, pretended to respond from a distance, and then ran back. "What's wrong, sister? Are you hurt?" I wrapped myself in a bath towel and opened the door shyly. A delicate white arm stretched out from the narrow crack of the door. "Brother, give me the gauze, my leg is injured." The steaming mist hit his face and the fragrance in the air filled his nostrils. He thrust his foot into the crack of the door, exerted some force, and wormed his way in. His eyes moved over me with the evil light in them undisguised. He pretended to care. "What's wrong? Where are you hurt? Let me take a look." "Ah? How could it be so serious? I'll bandage you." Before I could say anything, his rough palm had already touched my calf, stroking and stinging me. "Sister, your skin is so smooth, tender and white. I feel so sorry for you if you get hurt." I suppressed my nausea and played along with him. "No, I only do rough work. You have never seen it, brother. The skin of the eldest daughter of the Sullivan family is really smooth and delicate. Even a girl like me can't help but look at her a few more times. I don't believe it. No woman is prettier than my sister." I turned my head away to avoid his gaze. While pretending to be shy, he picked up the phone next to him. "Here, look. This is the eldest daughter of the Sullivan family, Nora." Mark's eyes were immediately attracted by the graceful figure in the video. He swallowed his saliva and said, "It is indeed beautiful, but you are lying to me. How can a young lady take a photo of this?" I pretended to be angry. "Brother, how could I lie to you? The eldest lady's parents are not at home all year round, and she is the only one at home. As you know, the rich second generation nowadays like to have fun. The eldest lady is so beautiful that there is no shortage of suitors. Her boyfriends come one after another." When I said this, Mark had already taken my phone and was watching Nora's videos. I know he feels that young ladies from wealthy families are somewhat distant from himself, so I continued to fan the flames. The young lady had boyfriends of all types, including the gardener's son. I heard that after they broke up, she gave him a large sum of money as a breakup fee. "Really?" Mark's eyes sparkled. "How much did you give?" I made a random gesture of the number 9. 90,000? 900,000. Ah. Mark showed an envious expression. I quickly said, "Brother, I think you are much more handsome than that boy." He smiled confidently, his mind no longer on me. I pulled my leg back imperceptibly. "Thank you, brother, for bandaging it for me. It doesn't hurt at all now. I can go back to work tomorrow." Younger sister. Can you take me with you tomorrow?" I pretended to be embarrassed. "Yes, I can. But brother, please don't tell Mom. I'm afraid she will scold me." "Okay, I'll listen to you." 6. I didn't sleep that night. I searched the internet for information about my biological parents. I had heard from my adoptive mother a long time ago that the owner of the Sullivan family was not at home all year round, and he would only come over during the holidays or when Nora had important matters. I don't understand why they would leave their only daughter alone in the country. Nora, who had no one to discipline her since childhood, grew up to be so short-sighted and arrogant. If it were me, would it be like this? After dawn, my foster mother called me to get up and make birds' nests for Nora. I secretly added something in there. It was not until noon that Mark called me and said that he was stopped by security at the door of the villa. "Brother, how could the Sullivan family let strangers in? Come to the side door, I'll wait for you here. There is a dog hole by the side door." This is the only way Mark could come in. When he arrived, I looked aggrieved and tried to squeeze out a few tears. "Brother, my secret key was discovered by my mother, and she took it away, and she won't let anyone in. What should I do then? How about I go steal it from my mom?" I cried as I said this. I just don't know if she will beat me if she finds out. I looked down at my legs. Last time I stole something, she cut me with a pair of scissors. Woo-woo. Ah. Seeing how pitiful I looked, Mark didn't know what to say and had to pretend to be distressed. Then He looked up at the wall and rubbed his hands. I'll crawl in. No, brother, I'm scared. If you fall, I'll be in agony. I pretended to pace back and forth, and he was also walking around anxiously outside. His eyes followed me until they stopped at the dog hole in front of me. I looked at the dog hole, my eyes avoided, pretending to be embarrassed. I knew he would be insulted if I suggested he crawl through the dog hole. I have to stop him. Why is there such a big hole here? Yes. He squatted down and gestured and felt that it was similar to his body shape. After trying a few times, he saw a pile of dog shit nearby. He realized something and looked embarrassed. Brother, why don't I go steal the key for you? I turned and ran. I'll go get it after Mom falls asleep. No. How long do we have to wait? He seemed to have made up his mind. Turn around. I am well behaved and obedient. Behind him came the sound of cloth rubbing against the ground, and his heavy breathing. I knew he was stuck. Brother, how are you? Do you want me to help you? Don't, he stopped me. Don't turn around. It's very face-saving. Does he know that his miserable appearance has been captured by the camera and automatically transferred to my mobile phone? Mark finally got in and got dog shit all over his body. I pretended not to see it. Brother, you are dirty. Do you want to go to the bathroom to wash? Is it okay? He smelled himself and looked disgusted. Of course. Let's go to the servant's bathroom. I pulled him and ran to the side of the villa. 7. Outside the restaurant window, we both squatted and moved quietly. There was the sound of cups and plates being smashed inside. What did you put in the bird's nest? It made me poop all morning. The adoptive mother said timidly. I'm sorry, miss, I didn't pay attention. The food may have expired. Will saying sorry help? Then there was the sound of something being thrown out. A muffled sound. This time it fell on the adoptive mother. I couldn't help but laugh. How does it feel to be beaten and scolded by your own daughter? As if noticing my expression, Mark whispered to me. What's your dirty trick? I looked at him aggrievedly. Brother, my body hurts. I didn't sleep well last night. Maybe I didn't handle the ingredients properly. I really didn't mean it. Heh. He sneered. You'd better behave yourself and continue leading the way. I didn't move. Brother, I am not afraid of mother beating me, as long as I can satisfy my brother's wish. In this family, only my brother loves me, and only you treat me well and help me bandage my wounds. I know that Mark is a soft-hearted person. Since I figured out this thing about him, I used him to block a lot of beatings. Although the price he paid was that he looked at me with increasingly obscene eyes. But at least no substantial harm happened in the previous life. His level is far inferior to the 2 vicious women who killed me and even skinned me in the house. Well, if you are discovered, I will protect you. Brother is the best. Thank you, brother. Okay, let's go. He is very anxious. But he doesn't know that I am actually more anxious than him. I really wanted Clara to see the despicable things her own children did. 8. Clara was punished by Nora to do manual labor. Go clean up the yard. I watched her sweeping fallen leaves under the peach tree from afar, and I wished I could bury her and Nora underground forever. Hatred makes my blood boil. I know that I must be looking hideous at this moment, but I finally controlled my anger. I can't let them die like this, nor can I ruin my own future. Will I be discovered if I wash here? Mark's voice interrupted my thoughts. Brother, don't worry. This bathroom is quite remote and usually no one comes here. Just wash yourself. It's a little off the beaten track, but it's next to the swimming pool. I had already arranged for Nora to take swimsuit photos today. The bathroom window was closed and had no view of the pool, but he would definitely hear something soon. I punctured Nora's inflatable kayak. She spent some time taking pictures of it. The air leaked out little by little. At a certain point, her weight could no longer be supported and she slid into the water. She couldn't swim and the water here was very deep, and watching her struggle in the pool, the memory of being drowned in her previous life came back to her. I felt the same way and it became difficult for me to breathe. He fell to the ground limp all over. The thought of letting her drown had crossed my mind, but this is too cheap for her. I stroked my stuffy chest twice before I was able to scream out, "Help! Help! The lady has fallen into the water." I yelled and ran towards Mark's window specifically. He soon heard the noise and opened the window. I immediately saw Nora splashing in the water. He jumped out of the bathtub, climbed out the window, and plunged into the water with a splash. The dying Nora was quickly rescued. He himself was completely naked, and even had soap foam on his head. Nora fainted, but not completely. But Mark's artificial respiration didn't give her a chance to breathe. His eyes rested on her pretty face. That big hand rested on her lower back. With a light touch, their lips blended together. I even saw blood boiling somewhere in him. I'm going to puke. This would not please Nora, so I coughed twice and threw a towel over. He immediately wrapped it around his waist. He also let go of Nora. She coughed violently and looked at me with resentment. I immediately knelt on the ground. "I'm sorry, miss. I don't know why the kayak had a leak and almost made you drown. Woohoo. Luckily my brother was here and he saved you. You don't know how dangerous it was just now. You fainted and your face turned purple. I was so scared that I called an ambulance for you. Fortunately, my brother learned first aid and brought you back from the brink of death." Nora wanted to scold me, but she couldn't get angry in front of the man who just saved her life. She turned her head and saw water droplets hanging on Mark's muscular abdominal muscles. Her cheeks immediately turned red and she lowered her head to thank him shyly. "Thank you for saving me. Can I treat you to a meal? How about eating? Let's eat at home. I have prepared a candlelight dinner for you." I gave Mark a look and he politely agreed. Under the attack of the romantic atmosphere I created and the expensive gifts I prepared for him in advance, Nora's eyes were full of stars and she was immersed in the joy of the date. She didn't even ask why Mark was in her house. So stupid. Although Mark was mean and impatient, he completely turned into a humble gentleman after I stopped him. I gritted my teeth and used all the money I had saved for tuition to support their date. Even a credit card was used. For the first time, Mark felt that I was a loyal sister. Even when my adoptive mother wanted to hit me several times, I really stood in front of her and even pushed her down. I looked at Clara's distorted expression and felt so happy. I really want to tell her, "Don't worry, you will have more troubles later." 9. Nora's clothes became more and more revealing. She twists her body for the camera all day long. Show off your mansion, bags, jewelry, and body. Clara naturally didn't like seeing her twisted in front of the camera. "Just say it in a euphemistic way." Nora scolded him. "You are just a lousy babysitter, and you want to be my mother and take care of me? If you keep talking nonsense, I will fire you. Get out of here." But I know she wants to say that I am her biological mother, but I can't say it with me next to her. And Nora no longer takes her seriously. I felt happy when I saw her distorted expression. In the evening, Clara held her cell phone and asked me how to follow Nora. I helped her with the operation and also kindly told her how to join the fan group and how to give rewards. "Daisy, you two are the same age. Can you help Mom persuade Nora to stop being an internet celebrity? Their family is not short of money. What if the master and the mistress see it?" "Mom, the young lady didn't take these photos for money." I acted embarrassed. "Besides, we are servants. How can she listen to what we say?" "Yes." The word servant stung her. I could see the loneliness on her face. I held back my laughter and comforted her. "Don't worry, the lady is so rich she won't be cheated by men. And the Sullivan family has so many bodyguards, so there is no need to worry about her safety. She just wants to be popular on the internet, so we don't have to worry too much. Besides, the young lady never showed her face before. Even if she shows her face in the future, it will be after beautification. Who can recognize her?" After my persuasion, she was skeptical, poked her phone, and started to like the posts. "Mom, click here and you can give Miss a gift." "Yeah. Yes." I just linked her bank card and scanned her face for authentication. She didn't quite understand and thought it was virtual currency. I asked her to brush more. "The young lady will definitely be happy." She nodded happily. I watched from the side, planning my next step in my mind. I have to speed up my revenge plan before she spends all her pension money. 10. I went to an alley. There are often a lot of gangsters there. I secretly wore the eldest lady's clothes, carried her unwanted bag, and wore a huge sun hat and sunglasses to cover most of my face. I put her remaining cell phone in my bag and saved her videos and photos, as well as some personal information in it. I deliberately moved closer to the gangster who was smoking next to me, provoked them with a look of disdain. The leader spat, crushed his cigarette butt, and moved closer to me. I continued to provoke him and kept showing my disgust. He grabbed my wrist and said, "What did you look at me just now, you little bitch? Look at the eyes of the poor. Let me go, it's so dirty, believe it or not, I will call the police. Don't touch me. There are some people coming and going in this alley, but they don't dare to do anything directly to me." He just snatched my bag and searched for valuables in it. "What are you doing stealing things from women? You're useless. Are you considered a man? Do you have any guts? Do you have the guts? Why don't you try it? You'll know once you try it." Pooh. Even though it was broad daylight, I knew they wouldn't do anything rash. But even though I was so angry, I was still a little scared. Holding the folding knife tightly in my hand, I am ready to fight at any time when danger comes. Just as they surrounded me and whistled maliciously, a couple passed by. They then scattered like birds and beasts, only taking my bag. He even turned around and spat at me. "You're so dry, I'm not interested. Get lost." The phone was snatched away as expected. I pretended to struggle twice. The other person raised his hand to slap me, but I gave him a fierce look, and he was so scared that he was stunned for a moment. He didn't know that this was the look of someone who had been to the gates of hell. I took the opportunity to escape. After walking away, he turned around and shouted at them, "My sister is Kevin's woman. I will go back and tell my brother-in-law to avenge me. Just wait." Kevin, I checked, he is the mortal enemy of these gangsters. Behind me, I heard them turn on my phone. "This girl is pretty good. Better than that firewood girl just now. That guy named Tiger, he eats so well? Heh, let her run into our guns. I want to see what it feels like." Oh. I smiled, everything was going as I wished. 11. After I got back, I continued to wash dishes, mop the floor, and memorize words. I also want to apply for graduate studies in foreign schools. For me, memorizing a word is a small step, and doing a test paper is a big step. I want to take a step towards my beautiful future life. I stepped out of the abyss step by step. And the fake daughter is still live streaming. I hope she will also step towards the abyss step by step. She yelled and asked me if I had finished writing her internship report, and I showed it to her. She dislikes handwriting that doesn't look like her. They tore up the report and told me to write a new one. They also made me kneel down and stepped on my feet. She said that I didn't write well, and I did it on purpose to get her discovered by the teacher. My hands were covered with bruises and I was shaking with pain. My chest is filled with hatred, but now I can only endure it. These days, I have been trying to contact my biological parents who are abroad. But he was a wealthy man after all, and he was thousands of miles away, so the message I sent fell on deaf ears and there was no response at all. I have to wait a little longer. "I'm sorry, miss, I was wrong, please forgive me." I kept apologizing and submitted to her in the most cowardly and humble manner. The way she held her head high looked arrogant and uninhibited. "It's good that you know you were wrong, why don't you just do it again?" I retreated in dismay. I deliberately came back late the next day. She scolded me for being slow. I said I saw a cosplay event on the road and watched it for a while longer. He also praised the cosplayers for their good looks. "But none of them are as pretty as you, Mississippi. With your figure and looks, if you pair them with professional clothing and exquisite makeup, what can they do to you?" I tried my best to act like a flattering bootlicker. She enjoyed it very much. Asked me for the address of the comic convention. I gave. Then I took out my cell phone and sent the address to another person. 12. The next day I followed Nora, who was dressed up in all her glory. She had no doubts and went straight to the alley, twisting her waist, even broadcasting live. The result, of course, was running into that group of thugs. They recognized her as the woman in the cell phone video and thought she was there to provoke them. They all looked at her intently. "What are you doing? Have you never seen a woman before? Get out of the way and stop blocking me from filming the video." This sentence, plus the spark that had been planted before. The conflict between them is about to break out. A group of them, shirtless, pushed Nora to the ground. For strong men pinned her limbs to the ground, and no matter how she struggled, she couldn't move. What are you doing? Let me go. Do you want to die? Do you know who I am? I know. Isn't she just a woman being toyed by an old man? The bald leader sat on her waist and slapped her twice on the face. I watched from afar, recalling the knife she had slashed on my back in her previous life. The resentment in my heart was finally relieved. Nora was still cursing, and the group of men showed no mercy at all. A few of them came out to keep watch, so I had to stay away. I couldn't see the specific scene, but I heard the sound of clothes being torn. At this moment, a man rushed out from the corner. Smart. He rushed in to save people, holding up his cell phone and saying he had called the police. Although he was strong, he was outnumbered and was beaten up. In the end, he was beaten half to death. I was watching from the side and couldn't help feeling happy. From childhood to adulthood, he was the one who watched me being beaten. I never thought that the day would come when our roles would be reversed. I really want to see them both beaten to death. But I won't let them die now. I will play with them like a cat plays with a mouse. If I want them to die, they die. Let them breathe, then they can breathe. I just tricked Mark into calling the police in advance, and I waited until he was beaten half to death before I called the police. The police came and arrested all the thugs. Mark and Nora were taken to the hospital. Clara cried anxiously. As soon as we arrived at the hospital, she slapped me. Why don't you think highly of the young lady? Are you crazy? You let her go to a place like that. I covered my face and cried very loudly. Mom, how can you blame me for this? It was the young lady who wanted to live stream there in a miniskirt. Look, this is a video she took while walking, and it has 200,000 likes online. Netizens can prove it for me, and I can't stop it. I cried as I spoke, and my voice got louder and louder. People passing by in the hospital looked at me strangely. Clara had to pull me into the ward. Nora is still sleeping. Looking at the scars all over her body, Clara cried and fell into the chair. She asked me, "Has she been?" No, I was rescued in time. My words successfully comforted Clara, but she didn't know that there would be times when she would cry. After a while, Mark from next door came to see Nora with gauze and plaster on his back. Mark, why are you here? How are you hurt? I hid aside and enjoyed this mother-son drama. I am even more looking forward to the upcoming storm. Mark walked to Nora's bed with concern. Is Nora okay? Fortunately, I received the message from Daisy today and went there in time. Otherwise, the consequences would be disastrous. Nora suffered so much injustice. It's all my fault that I didn't protect her well. When she wakes up, I will propose to her and tell her. What did you say? Clara's pupils trembled, and she grabbed Mark's clothes and asked again. You said you were going to marry Nora? Mark nodded. I won't allow it. 14. But she didn't allow it to be too late. After being discharged from the hospital, Mark and Nora's relationship became better. Saving her twice was enough to make her pledge her life and death to him. Not to mention dating. I often cover for them. Nora bought new revealing clothes and said they were mine. Mark bought a new gift and asked me to give it to Nora. In Mark's opinion, Clara was short-sighted and her obstruction was unreasonable. Even with my help, he began to feel that Clara looked down on him and that he was not worthy of Nora. The hatred between mother and son grew deeper and deeper, and I was getting closer and closer to successful revenge. Mark could no longer enter the Sullivan villa, so every time Clara went out, I would text them. They would secretly go to our house to date. The two of them were cuddling on the sofa while I was outside taking a walk. This underground love affair lasted for a long time. During this period, I worked hard to prepare for the postgraduate entrance examination while covering for them. Nora was deeply trapped in the love cage that I had created for her, and had no interest in studying at all. She didn't even attend the final exams and failed several subjects. I knew that only the school leaders could contact the Sullivan parents, so that they could come back and I would have the opportunity to meet them. So I gave my brother an idea a long time ago that he should ask her out on a date during her final exams. On New Year's Day, the two of them went out on a date again. And I saw my biological parents at the door of the villa. Although I had expected them to come back before the new year. But I didn't expect that when I saw them in person, my eyes would involuntarily become wet. Mom, this is my mom. The way she looked at me was so gentle, completely different from Clara's. Is this Daisy? I heard about you from Clara. What's wrong, kid? You must be cold. The tip of your nose is red. Stop standing there like an idiot and come in. This kind of warm care is something I have never felt before. She hugged me into the room and touched my head. Why are you so thin? Do less work and eat more. Well, thank you. I nodded, not knowing how to address her for a moment. Call me Aunt Lucy. It's strange to say, but when I first saw you, I felt an inexplicable sense of familiarity. When I heard her say that, my mouth opened and I almost called out, Mom. But I held back because the timing was not right. 15. I waited for a long time, but Nora never came home. The food on the table was ready, but it had gone cold and there was no sign of her. My mother looked out the window with some concern. Why didn't Nora answer the phone, didn't come home, and there was no news at all? Then he asked me, when does she usually come back? I stammered, looking guilty. It's okay, go ahead. My dad's voice was a little louder, and I immediately pretended to be scared and couldn't hide it. He fell to his knees with a thud. I'm sorry. Master, madam, I promised miss not to tell. Clara also knelt down beside me. Don't listen to this child's nonsense, she has a cold and her brain is confused. The young lady will be back soon. Where's that person? My dad said in a dignified manner, not listening to her nonsense. Just shut up. Daisy, get up and talk. So I told her that Nora was going out on a date today. By the way, at their request, I also talked about Nora's performance during this period. The eldest lady said that final exams and the like don't matter. You will arrange for her to study abroad. The eldest lady said that she loves her boyfriend very much. They want to get married, and she wants to give birth to a baby for him. Oh, what a mess. Clara reached out to hit me. My mother stopped me. Clara, how can you hit a child casually? I felt sad and quickly hid behind her. Clara didn't dare to do anything to me in front of them, and could only stare at me hatefully. I pretended to be helpless and told the Sullivan parents their meeting address. When my dad went to the hotel and kicked open the door of the room, Mark was still on top of Nora. Clara was the first to run up and beat the man up. When she found out it was Mark, she almost went crazy. Mark, are you crazy? I've told you so many times not to think about Nora. How could you still cheat on me? She glanced at Nora, who was hiding under the quilt, tears and snot all over her face. How could you do this? Do you know that you? She couldn't say anything, she just collapsed to her knees. My dad was really angry. Hurry up and put on your clothes and come back with me. And you, I've called the police, just wait for them to come and arrest you. When Nora heard this, she rolled to our feet wrapped in the quilt. No, Dad, I really love Mark. Please make us happy and let us be together. My dad kicked her away and said, Don't call me Dad. I don't have a daughter as shameless as you. I didn't expect my dad to be such a traditional person. Logically speaking, from his point of view, they were just in a free love relationship at best. Compared to Clara's current discomfort, it was nothing. Mark's dream of becoming a son-in-law of a wealthy family cannot be shattered just like that. He hugged my father's legs amidst his sobbing. Mr. Sullivan, I really love Nora. Please help us get married. Daddy, please. Their pleas in my dad's eyes were like fart. His expression was serious and his tone was unquestionable. Absolutely impossible. Nora fell to the ground, tears of despair streaming down her cheeks. I put my hand on my belly and took the opportunity to give her a look. She understood immediately. She shouted, Dad, I'm pregnant. 16. This was the bad idea I gave Nora in advance. She asked me how to get her parents' consent, and I told her to pretend to be pregnant. When the adoptive mother heard this, she immediately collapsed and blurted out, You are siblings. Everyone was confused. Everyone was silent for a few seconds. Only my biological mother reacted and asked my adoptive mother, Did you dump Nora at our doorstep? Seeing this, the adoptive mother pretended to faint. I immediately said to my brother, Hurry up and save Mom. Pinch her philtrum. The adoptive mother was so hurt that she couldn't pretend anymore and had to admit it. Nora naturally didn't want to acknowledge her and cried and asked my biological mother to drive her away. I laughed. If you follow my brother, you still have to call her Mom. Only then did she realize that what was more terrifying than losing her status as a wealthy daughter was that she slept with her brother. But her brain was broken. She said that in order to ensure their bloodline, vampires were all brothers and sisters living together. and that this was also the case in mythology. My dad slapped her and told her to shut up. They also blamed my biological mother for adopting her, saying that she could never replace their biological daughter. My mother finally regretted. I shouldn't have looked for meal replacements. No one can compare to my Nora. When she said this, she suddenly realized something and looked at my adoptive mother and asked, "Did you take Nora away?" My adoptive mother avoided my gaze and glanced at me inadvertently. My mother looked at me with more and more kind eyes. "You really are like my Nora." As I watched her approaching, seemingly ready to see my birthmark, I was ready to undress. Nora immediately knelt on the ground and hugged my mother's legs. "Mom, even if I'm not your biological child, I've been your daughter for so many years. We are more like real mother and daughter. Don't you really want me anymore?" My mother shook her hand away and said, "Have you ever wondered why you are called Nora? Nora missing Nora. Do you know why your father and I are not at home all year round? It's because you are uneducated, spoiled, and willful. I really regret adopting you. You are nothing like Nora. Now that you are an adult, we have done our best for you. Since you like this family, you can go back. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other." Nora fell to the ground, while my brother and my adoptive mother were still in a state of collapse. My dad said he would take me for a paternity test. My biological mother hugged me and looked at my thin body with heartache. I felt close to this child the first time I saw her. The birthmark on her hand was unmistakable. I knew it was my Nora without a paternity test. "I'm sorry that Mom and Dad made you suffer." I called out to my parents in tears. My father's eyes also became moist. He patted her on the shoulder and said, "Good girl," without giving Nora any extra glances. "Oh no, she's Daisy Phillips now." The farce ended with Mark being taken away by the police. 17. Then one day, Clara rushed into the villa and tried to stab me with a knife. She said that I had cheated her of all the money in her bank card, leaving her with no money to bail out her brother. I laughed. "Those are your own tips, go ask Daisy for them." Clara knew that the money had been squandered and turned to my parents and said, "She is a monster. She is the one who destroyed my family. She took away Daisy's original life, schemed against her, and caused her to fall. You will be killed by her sooner or later." Only then did I realize that Daisy was lazy and gluttonous at her home. Clara lost her job in my family and could no longer support Daisy. Daisy was expelled from school because she did not take the exam. After graduation, she returned to her old job and sold sex live. As a result, she brought different people home every day. Clara scolded her and she laughed. She said that she had even slept with her own brother, so what other man could she not sleep with? But in fact, my brother was picked up by Clara from outside. But Clara didn't dare to say it. That year, Daisy's father went out to work for a year. Clara didn't want a child anymore, so she had to find a child from outside to replace him. She has still kept this a secret from Mark's father. If you say it out loud, you'll probably be beaten to death. My biological father didn't want to listen to her nonsense anymore, and told her directly that he had collected evidence of her trafficking and was preparing to send her to prison. It's just right that it came to my door. 18. The next year, I received an admission letter for graduate school from a key university. "Pack your bags and hit the road." Before leaving, I went to my old home to see Daisy. I told her that I was the one who brought her and Mark together. My parents threw away all the things she used to show off in front of me and bought me better ones, and told her I was going to school. My dad wants me to inherit the company, and I have already started my internship. Tell her I got it all back. It is not based on forbearance, calculation, and submission, nor is it based on talent, luck, and hard work. It's the sum of everything. She came over like a madman and tried to beat me. My bodyguard stood in front of me and blocked her behind me. I turned around and stepped into the door of the luxury car. She was called Miss, the title she once had. In the past, I was Daisy who lived in hell. I was dark and vicious, a little devil with a bloody mouth. Now I have become Nora again. I will be as pure and innocent as a blank sheet of paper. I looked back at her. "Goodbye, Daisy.